All right, so welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since we put out a video, but we're gonna have a big update today. As you can see, I'm outside, it's beautiful, sun's shining, and today's video is all about solar. So let's dig into it. So I'm up here on the roof where there's not a lot of walking space. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in wide angle lens for you. Again, sorry for the wind, the audio. But up here we've got 27 solar panels. Each of them are the same, 250 watt, 60 cell, polycrystalline. They're about 39 inches wide and 65 inches long. This is as many as I could fit on the roof. As you can see, there's just a little bit of room on the edge and barely enough to walk in the middle, but that's good enough for me to get up here, do any kind of cleaning or maintenance that needs to be done. In fact, they are looking a little dusty now that I'm up here, so I might go ahead and wash them off with some water, wipe them down. So if I'm gonna walk up here very carefully, a little bit further, and here you can see those are two junctions. So those are just white ABS plastic shells. There are entry glands that allow the wires to pass through the roof and down below while keeping it watertight, not allowing any water to leak through. And then in this bundle right here, we have the fuses for one array, and in that bundle right there, the fuses for the next array. And although, yes, it would be a little difficult, I could easily get to them and change the fuses if they ever blow. It's essential to have those fuses for the protection of the home and all the wiring system. It's a must-have. Don't build a system without some kind of overcurrent protection, whether it's a fuse, a breaker. You got to have something, so that's a must. These are probably the cheapest option and the simplest to install for sure, but depending on where you put them, they're maybe not the simplest to get to in the event of changing it. For me, I put them up here, and I can explain further later in the video why. But here are the panels. And if I get really close, you could see how dirty these panels are. But the reason I'm getting so close is to show you how they're mounted. So these are called Z brackets because they're in the shape of a Z. And these are anodized aluminum, black, same as the frame. And they are screwed directly into the roofing surface below, which in my case is wood. And I did use roofing screws that have the sealing washer, but the kit that I bought this also comes with some roofing cement sealer type stuff. It's actually kind of like epoxy. As you can see, it's kind of yellowed because it's been up here for a while in the sun. It was clear, but that helps in the waterproofing. It gives you kind of more peace of mind. So I put some underneath the bracket and in the holes. Then I sink the screws down and put even more over top. So really there should be no water penetrating through the roof. And while I was showing the brackets, a lot of you were probably looking at the panel and saying, that's not just dirty, Blake, that's got more going on in there. And that's true. These are used panels. I get them very cheap. And the bus bars, these here are the bus bars. They do have some oxidization. So for one reason or another, at one point in time, moisture entered into the panel. Usually through the vinyl on the back side of these. I can't show you that because it's on the back. But all of these panels have been resealed and recertified. So they've all been tested and they have good output. They're not going to output 100% because they are used. They're about 3 years old at the time of purchase. So 4 years old now for me. But they come from a reputable dealer, and for the price that I pay for them, they are well worth it. Eventually, when one goes out, I can replace it. And I know that they're not going to last as long as some that don't have this problem, but they work well for me and they get the job done. I'd say, based on my numbers, they are putting out anywhere from 75 to 85% of their original output, which I think is great for the price, so it's worth it. So next, let's talk about how these panels are wired. We have the array along the steeper slope on the metal roof. That is one array, and all the panels on the more shallow slope on this new addition roof is a second array. They're all working together, but two separate arrays, and that's important to note. These, as I mentioned, are at a different angle. They're going to produce different amounts of power throughout the year. More in the winter, slightly less in the summer, whereas all these are at their same angle, so these are all together. When you have different directions or different angles, you definitely want to wire them separately so that one doesn't drag the other down, and you'll get overall higher output when you do it this way. And as far as the array on the steeper slope, it is wired 3S, 3P, so 3 series, 3 parallel, meaning that we have 1, 2, 3 stop, 1, 2, 3 stop, 1, 2, 3 stop, 9 total. And I could bring up a little diagram on screen to maybe visualize that a little better. And for all of these, which it would be 18 down here, it is a 6S 3P, meaning that it's 6 in series, stop, 6 in series, stop, 6 in series, stop. So then those 3 sets of 6 are paralleled together, so 6S 3P. And so all of these panels are connected using MC4 connectors. This is really the industry standard. It's a waterproof connection, and it's capable of handling sufficient amperage as long as you keep that in mind when running your numbers. All of the wire is standard 10 gauge PV wire, so nothing really crazy there. These just get tucked under because even though they're waterproof, I like to have everything tucked out of the way nice and neat. But I thought I'd pull one out to show you what it looks like. And I'm not going to disconnect it right now because obviously this is creating power. It's under load. We wouldn't want to do that. That would be dangerous. But I'm sure if you're watching this, you have probably seen an MC4 connector and you know how they work. They just click together. You have a positive and a negative, and you really can't get it wrong. Get that back under there for now. There it is. Small washer on the bottom side, big washer on the top. You just crank that down. You can see ears against the frame. And there you have it. Do 4 of these to each panel, flipped upside down, and you are ready to mount. I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, so it's really windy. Audio quality is going to be bad, but I'm running out of daylight. Wanted to show you that we got the row 9 on the steel roof done, and the first 3 on the more shallow sloped roof done. These ones are all wired up and making power. They made power for most of the day. Still got some tidying up to do. These ones are not going to be wired until tomorrow. I'm going to work until I can't see and then start again tomorrow morning. But it's looking really nice. Alright, so here we are inside the house now in the utility closet off the living room. And this is where all of the solar equipment is housed. So we have, starting up top, the inverter. It is an all-in-one inverter, meaning that everything is all inside this unit. It is, of course, the inverter itself, a solar charge controller, and there's actually 2 side-by-side separate solar charge controllers, and then also the battery charger for utility charging, and everything is just all nice and neatly inside this case. And it's got the control panel on the front, easy to use, easy to read. I really like this unit. And then for the batteries, these are Signature Solar's LifePo or LifePower. They're lithium iron phosphate batteries. They are server rack style, but as you can see, they are not in a server rack right now. They're just sitting up on end. These batteries can be used in any orientation except for completely upside down. So they're totally fine like this. They just don't look as nice, and I can't fit as many. I will be getting a server rack later on down the road and adding 3 more. So we'll have 6 total. But 3 has been doing great for us. We've had these in operation for over a year now, no problems at all. And with our recent solar panel upgrade of having 27 panels, we're totally fine. Even getting into the hot summer months here, we're doing great with how much we make and how much we use. So on that note, I can show you, I have it on the screen here for the day. I usually leave it on this screen all the time. I can just open the closet door, take a peek, and see. But what this screen is showing us, this number here, is how much we have brought in for kilowatt hours, and then this is how much we have consumed in kilowatt hours. And so it's 23.8, just shy of 24,000 watts, and then just shy of 12,000 watts. But the thing to note is, once the batteries are full, as they are now, you can see by this indicator, state of charge, once they're full, the inverter, the unit, will only allow enough energy to come in to balance out what your load is. So if your battery is full and you have no load, then it's not going to bring anything in. Like right now, it's just bringing in enough to power the lights, a fan, and the internet router. So not very much. So this number here for how much we're making in a day can change a lot depending on how much our actual usage is. So today we did have the AC running pretty much all day, keep it really comfortable in here. My wife likes to keep it as close to 60 as she can, and at night it gets down to 58 in here. So the AC runs quite a bit, but even so, we're still only using 12, and then we're making almost 24. And then the difference in what you're making versus what you're using is obviously what's going into the battery. So, you know, I'll get up in the morning pretty early, and we'll be at usually 2 bars, so that's approximately 50% battery. And then by about 10 or 11 in the morning, this is fully charged. So there's a surge of power that's, you know, being dumped into the batteries, and then once they're full, like I said, everything you use after that is just coming straight from the solar panels through here into your load. It's not even going to the battery. So the way we have things set up right now, it's perfect, but I will be adding batteries later, not out of necessity, more so out of just, I love solar, and it's always great to have more, but also on cloudy days, rainy days, you want a bigger battery. You want to oversize it if you can. They're not cheap, so it's going to be a more long-term goal. And then here we can see, if I can get under here, it's kind of dark in here even with the light on, but we have 2 sets. So like I mentioned, the all-in-one MPP inverter has 2 solar charge controllers. So you have positive negative to one and positive negative to the other. So they are totally separate. And what's nice about this is that it allows you to have a lot more solar coming in, because usually you're limited by your solar charge controller of how many watts can come in. And you still are, but now you have 2. So the limit is then doubled, because once you reach the limit on this array, this line, you can then have a second one. And that's what we did. So we have the metal roof, 9 panels on one array, and then the other 18 on a second array. And another thing that makes it nice to wire it like this is, like I mentioned before, the angle that they face, or slightly different pitches. It just is better to keep them separate. That way you're always making the maximum power that you can make. These are all just kind of flopping around loose right now, and they don't have a shutoff. So that is the biggest thing that I need to get done in here, is I need to add a DC shutoff for each array. Just, you know, it's a turn knob DC shutoff. So that's coming soon, but everything else is pretty well done in here. We have just a standard service breaker panel. It is way oversized for how many breakers. I mean, it's a tiny house, and this is a big full-size panel, so I'm underutilizing it, but I was given this for free, so I figured I would make use of it rather than go out and buy a little, you know, 6 space or maybe a 12 space. So we have our main, because this is a non-mained panel. We're using this as the main. That's totally acceptable. And then we have each of our breakers. So everything after the inverter is, you know, wired the same way you would a regular residential home. It's just all this stuff that might be new or foreign to some people. And then for numbers, the all-in-one inverter is a 6.5 kilowatt inverter. So the maximum amount of power we can pull out of it at once is 6,500 watts. It does have a higher peak, but the peak's only for a few seconds. And then for the batteries, well, you can read here, they're 100 amp hour. They're 48 volts, but their nominal voltage is 51.2. So you run the math on that, and you get 5,120 watt hours each. And there's 3 of them. They're wired in parallel, of course. So you end up with a little over 15,000 watts or 15 kilowatts of lithium. And then for the 27 solar panels on the roof, once you factor in the loss, like I mentioned earlier, they're running at about 75 to 85% of their peak output. And I have 27 of them, so about 205 watts a piece. That is right around 5,500 watts, so a 5,500 watt array. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and if you have any solar specific questions, please comment them below. And if you are watching this episode after hearing of me on Ethan Waldman's Tiny House Lifestyle podcast, a special thank you for coming on over and checking us out. And a huge thank you to Ethan Waldman. And if you haven't listened to the Tiny House Lifestyle podcast, you should go do that now. Check below for the link.